Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call a hearing to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and the traditional lands of the Ojibwe, Cree, Dakota people, and in the national homelands of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this morning. The panel members are Mr. Doug Marks and Gisela Rempel, and representing the city of Winnipeg from the assessment department is Eric Gauthier. Our recording secretary is Stephen Lunn, and to the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you will be placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. It'll be then your turn and you will be admitted to the meeting. Kindly follow along the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak in respect to your property. Once the hearing is concluded, you may leave the hearing. This morning, we'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of other properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the municipal board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this morning, we will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. It'll be then the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then it'll be the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once the evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this morning. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. This morning, we'll be hearing items from the docket 1, 6, and 7. I'll ask Mr. Lund to swear in the assessor, and then we'll have the applicant's testimony. Mr. Lund, whenever you're ready.
So, assessor, please state your full name. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated. And Madame Kaiser, please state your full name.
Janice Kaiser.
And do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Kaiser. Have you been here before?
No, this is the first. I'm a newbie.
Okay, we'll be very gentle on you. As I read to you, the procedure is we'll first hear from the assessor, and they'll take us through your property and describe it and how they concluded value. You may ask questions along with the panel members, and then it'll be your opportunity.
Understood. So, thank you.
All right, Mr. Gauthier, whenever you're ready, you can take us through 347 Sharp Boulevard, please. The floor is yours.
Subject property is roll number 070505970000, commonly known as 347 Sharp Boulevard. It's located in the neighborhood of Deer Lodge. It's a 1.5-story single family home built in 1948. We do have an effective year built 1963 on the property. Living area is 1,257 square feet. We have a full basement with basement finish, 1 full bath, 1 half bath, no extra showers, central air conditioning, 1 electric fireplace. We have no attached garages, a multiple detached garage, no pools. And we do have a sunroom present. It's located on a plot of land at 6,407 square feet. We have a light traffic influence. Our 2023 assessment value, which is based on our April 1st, 2021 valuation date, is at $370,000. Today, I'm presenting to you 4 comparables. All the comparables are located in Deer Lodge. They're all single-family homes. They're all 1.5 stories. The year builds are in a pretty tight range between 1949 and 1950. Effective ages are between 1959 and 1969. Square footage ranges between 1,152 square feet and 1,392 square feet. They all have full basements with basement finish. All have 1 full bath, 1 half bath. Comparables 1 and 4 have an extra shower. They all have central AC. None have fireplaces. No attached garages. They all have multiple detached garages other than comparable 3 that has a single detached garage. None of them have pools and none of them have sunrooms. The land varies actually quite a bit in size here. At the low end, we have 4,695 square feet, and at the high end, 8,087 square feet. Comparables 1 and 2 do have location influences. Comparable 1 has light traffic, while comparable 2 has commercial adjacent, internal corner, and light traffic influences. These sales took place in between 2018 and 2021. The sale prices range between $321,000 and $372,000, giving us a sales price per square foot range between we'll call it $266 at the low end and $278 a square foot at the high end. The time adjusted sales price, so when we bring these various sales to our reference date of April 1st, 2021, varies between $358,000 and $382,000, giving us a time adjusted price per square foot range between $270 a square foot to $311 a square foot. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessment of $370,000 as supported by the comparable sales. Note that the time adjusted sales price for the 2018 sale of the subject property comes out to $369,000. Also note the subject has a Skillcraft 20 by 12 sunroom, and none of the comparables have a sunroom, so probably a fair adjustment for something like that would be about a $10,000 upward adjustment. And just a note here, after reviewing the MLS sale, it's noted that the home was extensively renovated. Various renovations took place kind of in between 2013 and on. So we have kitchen, bathrooms, some flooring, exterior paint. What else here? You get kitchen cabinets, countertops, windows, furnace, central AC. So basically over the last decade or so, there's been quite a few renovations done to the property. So that's all for my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gauthier. Ms. Kaiser, any questions of the assessor's presentation?
Yes, I'm in disagreement with some of the renovations that he has discussed with his presentation.
Okay, you can ask questions, and I'd like him to be in the form of questions and answers. Okay, so
Certainly.
You may proceed.
Thank you. First of all, I feel that my $70,000. Good morning, Mr. Chairperson and members of the panel. First of all, I would like to argue the fact that the $70,000 assessment set on this home is out of range. First of all, you've got a list of all my major structural discrepancies.
Let me just interrupt you. You're just going to ask questions in regards to the presentation by the city.
Okay.
Right. Yours, okay.
All right. First of all right. Then in that case, I would like to know how they gained their information about the major renovations done. First of all, with the kitchen, that wasn't a major reno. A lot of these renovations were done, of course, when I took possession in 2018. They were done prior. The kitchen, there wasn't a major renovation done. All the old cabinets are in place. It's just a new quartz countertop, new sink.
Okay.
And then the cabinets, it just
Right now, you're getting into your information, okay? So.
All right, then I'll carry on. Sorry.
No, just questions in regards to what you've heard and any questions that arose to the value of the property.
All right. So I have a question about the kitchen renovations and how they came to that fact. I also have a question with respect to the bathroom renovations, how that came into effect.
Okay, you can just ask the question and hopefully you'll get an answer.
Okay, so I would like to know where you got the facts of the total kitchen renovation.
All right, well, we did review the property and the pictures that were on the multiple listing service. And I will read carefully, verbatim, what the realtor wrote here. So extensively renovated family home, same owner for 45 years, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, skilled craft, 20 by 12 rear sunroom with in-floor heat and gray light counters, windows and appliances. Bathroom 2015, cabinets, cultured marble counters, toilet, tub, interior paint 2018, Humphrey tri-pane windows, Goodman HE furnace, air cleaner, central air sump pump, newer washer and dryer and freezer, shingles 2013, exterior paint 2017, stamped concrete sidewalk, 2 sheds, double garage. So that's basically the list that the realtors put on the MLS listing. So we kind of went by that and what the pictures show us. That's how we estimated the condition of the property.
Thank you. What the realtor puts in and what is actually there are 2 different stories. Of course, they're going to make it glossy, make it, glorify it because they want to make a sale. And what they put in there and what I moved into were totally 2 different areas in some of them. And I'd like to argue some of that.
You'll get your chance.
Thank you. Also, so, all right, we'll leave that there. That's my concern because what's stated and what's actually here in the home when I moved in aren't the same.
Any more questions in regards to their presentation?
No.
All right. Ms. Rempel, any questions?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You indicated that this home had a sunroom and that the value of a sunroom normally would be about $10,000.
Ballpark, yeah.
Ballpark. I also note that this home has a fireplace while the others do not. And I'm wondering, does that increase the assessment at all?
Fireplaces are a complicated ordeal because they vary greatly depending on what they are. So we have an electric fireplace here. I would say that we'd be really splitting hairs to adjust for that because an electric fireplace, like you might be looking at $1,000 or $2,000. So I really wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, if you're dealing with a wood fireplace with stonework, a mantle, like you can get into different value there. But this is a really basic fireplace, and I wouldn't pay too much attention to it.
Thank you. Did you have an opportunity to visit this home at all?
We did not. We had a conversation with the homeowner during a residential review appointment program on February 3rd, I believe. So she spoke to one of my colleagues and had noted that she wasn't happy with the assessment value and that she felt like the city was punishing people who were renovating or fixing up the home. So she was upset about that. None of the issues that we're going to discuss, I guess, were brought forward at that point that were noted in this with one of my colleagues.
Okay, thank you. I'm also wondering, looking at your comparisons, which one you might think is the most comparable to the applicant's property?
I actually think they're all very comparable, because they're all 1.5 stories. I think the only big factor here would be land size. You'll notice Comp 2 has quite a bit of land, but it has negative influences. So that's commercial adjacent, and the traffic influence. So probably be comparable number 1, honestly, because it has light traffic, the land size is similar, and as a matter of fact, it's just down the street from the subject. I mean, the first 2 were on Sharp Boulevard, so those would be good comps. But in my opinion, all 3 of them are very good comparables, or all 4 of them, I should say. But yeah, we don't always get this lucky where we find similar year build, similar size, same neighborhood, same, across the board, a lot of similarities. So,
Thank you. And also, you said, you have noted in your brief here that there was a sale on April the 17th, 2018 for $329,900.
that's correct.
Did you say something about $369? I'm sorry, maybe.
So that's a 2018 sale, and the market value we're discussing today is actually April 1st, 2021. So basically what we're saying is if you take that sale price and adjust it for time and nothing else, and bring it forward to April 1st, 2021, I did the math on it. And so our model looks at sales in a market region and gives us kind of an average increase in that region. That's actually quite, it's quite accurate because it's taking a whole huge sample of sales and saying in general, this area and these single family homes are up this much since their last cycle. So you have a full cycle, almost 3 years here of market appreciation. So once you start adjusting that $329,900, I'm coming in at just $1,000 short of our assessment of $370,000.
Thank you very much. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Mr. Marks, questions of the assessor?
Yes, are there any legal notes on this property?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so because, I can take a look. I don't think so because we caught these changes. The reason I don't think so is because we caught these changes when we were reviewing the sale. So typically when a permit comes through, we review the changes as the permits come through. So this was caught on because a lot of the renovations were done in 2013. And I see a note here when we reviewed the sale of the property, I guess in January 2021. So we made the changes based on the sale. It's not necessary to take permits. Like if you change your kitchen countertops, you don't touch the plumbing, the electrical. You can do quite a bit. You can renovate, you can change windows as long as the rough opening isn't changed. You can change flooring. So long story short, you can do a lot of legitimate changes to a property without having to pull permits. So I think this was just a case of who had done, your typical maintenance over the years and changes and updates. And we just kind of caught up to it when it sold.
And how old is the garage?
I thought I had noted, I have that here. I thought I had noted 2002, but I can double check that for the garage. Yeah, I have a garage 2002 is the year. Construction for the garage.
And that's a 2-car garage?
484 square feet. So that sounds about right for a 2-car.
Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you, Mr. Marks. Mr. Gauthier, there is a sunroom on this subject, and can you tell me when it was added?
The sunroom. No, I just have the size, 240 square feet, but having looked at it, it can't be terribly old. I mean, it looks like a decent sunroom, and the realtor notes that there's, I think, heated floors, and I have to read it again. But it's a decent kit sunroom. So it says a Skillcraft sunroom with in-floor heat and gray light windows. So whatever, I'm not sure what gray light windows are, but it has heated floors, so it's a decent kit sunroom. So it's not a full-blown addition on crawl, but it's a kit.
So is it an all-season sunroom?
Judging by the pictures, I would say no. But it has in-floor heat, so we probably call it a 3-season. Typically, the kits are not like a 4-season sunroom. Those would be on a crawl space and a more substantial kind of an addition. That's not the case here.
So did you look at the sale itself in 2018?
I did review the sale yesterday.
And you looked at the multiple listing, and there was a lot of data there?
I went through the pictures, and the house looks in good shape. Like whoever owned it for a long time and did, more than your average renovations to an older home. It's not, it's not one of these gutted, redone top to bottom, that you see like that's at the high end of renovations. But clearly there was pride of ownership, and they did things along the way and maintained the home. I mean, it's like any other house, there's going to be flaws, but I would say it's accurate for our assessment, and we have it kind of in a range with similar homes that have a similar level of renovation.
So Mr. Gauthier, Mr. Marks asked the question in regards to the permit, and you normally there's an assigned value to a permit. So would you have that?
No, I don't have any. I printed off the property record card here. Typically, I can go back.
No, if you don't have it, you don't have it. So
well, I have a 2002 note permit outbuildings, so that's probably for the garage. And then I have a 2007 note here, permit renovation, non-structural. So I don't really have any details. When something's that old, I usually don't print them off. But when we were talking 2007 permit, could have been for something minor. I'm not sure at this point. But there's no major permits. Like, it's not like they pulled out a load-bearing wall and redid everything top to bottom. Like, we come across those. But no, I don't have anything to share that's of as far as recent permit information that would be relevant here.
So your best comparable is sale number 1, which is across the street, and it's very similar, and that sold in 2021 for $372, eh?
Yeah, so it's a great sale because it doesn't even need a time adjustment. So we've argued with people before about that. So if you're one of those people who doesn't believe in time adjustments or thinks the market's flat, well, that's a good one because it's really days before a reference date.
And
mine does not have the sun.
The only thing is that there's been no inspection by the city in regards to this property at all, in regards to what the interior's like or anything like that, whether they have any damage or anything like that?
We have not inspected the property. We basically reviewed the MLS sale.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Kozar, I think we're ready for your presentation. So the floor is turned over to you. So your presentation.
Thank you. First of all, my main point is that everything that you have gathered from the sale of the home is not accurate. And of course, as I'd mentioned earlier, with a realtor glorifying it to make it look more attractive for a good sale is that's normal. That would be normal. Thus, the reason why what they were asking for the sale of a home, and I knocked them down in the price after reviewing what I saw, but still not noticing any inadequacies with the home. I bought it for $329,900 in 2018. Second of all, the sunroom, I believe it was built in 2004. There are stickers on all the doors and the windows which were installed at that time. And any windows that were installed in the home at that time, most of the windows are 2004 with the stickers on there. I actually recently had a door repaired this past summer, and the manufacturer confirmed it was installed 2004. So that's the age of the sunroom. It is basically a 3-season where I can't really use the sunroom, say from November right through until March or April, once it warms up. What else? And the windows within the house, windows in the sunroom, the sliding glass doors are tri-pane. All the other windows in the house are just double pane. And I have that noted down. As far as the sheds, there's an old 4-foot by 4-foot old metal shed, which the doors don't close and it's rusted out. So I don't know if you'd tax me on, or you would assess the property with an old rundown shed, which is filtered with mice. The other shed is a wooden structure, which was on the property when I first moved in. It has a dirt floor, and it's basically a potting shed, which was full of mice because I had stated in my case, I have listed question number 12 on the form that I'd submitted of the major deficiencies or issues I had with this home. One being I have renters next door, continual mice infestation as they were throwing out garbage continually. So basically it's just dirt with pots in there, and I store a lawnmower. That's the shed. The fireplace per se is a small plug-in electric fireplace. I don't live in the basement as it is because I have water issues down there, which was not disclosed when I purchased the home. I did send inspection reports beforehand, which you could be able to review. And it was a home inspector that I had before I moved into the home, and he noted that there was water mold issues in the basement, which I was aware of in the main basement, but I was not told that there was water coming through in the finished rec room. Whereas I've got carpet tiles still ripped up, and I've got dehumidifiers going 24/7 to pull off the water. I had cleaned off mold from the walls, but I still get water seeping through the whole basement every spring. Speaking of water issues, the garage, which wasn't disclosed, has major water flooding. I don't know how that had occurred. The garage was built back in 2002. There's nothing I can do. I've had people come in to look at it, but it just comes in from underground, comes right through the doors. And once we have water melting in the spring of the year, it comes right through. So that's a huge issue for me with ice, deterioration of the concrete floor. With the major renovations, I wouldn't exactly call them major. When I had looked through the home, yes, we've got a quartz countertop and a new sink. The cabinets were not replaced. They're the old cabinets, the original ones from the house was first built. What they have on there is just a laminate that was glued on top. I have had that laminate since repaired because it's peeling off. So they're not totally renovated. Another issue is the bathroom. I had sent you a picture. The bathroom is not totally renovated. There was a small cultured marble countertop installed and a new sink. The toilet is not new. So that was done there. The floor is original. The old bathtub is there with the sliding glass doors, and I had submitted a picture of that. So I don't know when they say major renovations. The furnace, air cleaner, is not in existence and didn't work. Doesn't work, and it's so I use portable furnace filters to put in where an old air cleaner was, and that was probably installed when they put the replacement furnace in. I'm not aware of any dates of the renovations being made because the homeowner that I purchased the seller for the home had a booklet with everything listed that they had repaired or renovated with invoices and copies. And when I'd moved in, I wasn't privy to any more of that information. They had removed that booklet with the information. As also, I have noted that, and I had sent that information through, that there are major issues with not only just the mold and the water issues in the basement, which I had provided you pictures of, major bowing, and that was according to the inspection report in 2018. The one fireplace which is sealed off from the house, that's the living room. And so they'd sealed it off from the inside of the house, and there is major cracking and bowing, which going vertical and horizontal. And I was informed by the home inspector that should be removed. It's a structural hazard. When I first moved in, I had a quote, and I stopped getting quotes after the first one, who was a reputable dealer, a reputable service company. Their initial quote was approximately $8,000 to remove that chimney because it was a hazard. It is not in use. And the other fireplace, of course, was in the basement, which is blocked off, and it's just a little electric fireplace that I don't use, and it's plugged in the wall. Another issue that I have is the detached garage, which wasn't disclosed, has major holes, which I had sent a picture on, all along the one whole side, all through the siding. I have since just had to tape it up. What else are we looking? Oh, the street for itself, I don't find it light traffic. It's a priority 2 street. So that was kind of a shock to me, not realizing after I moved in, it all looks fine and beautiful, but it's in a 4-way stop. I get major traffic there during rush hour. I have ambulances coming down there, fire trucks coming down there. I get major traffic from the Air Force Base in the morning and in the afternoons. They zip right down Sharp Boulevard. Another thing, so it's not light traffic. What else do I have to say here? The driveway, of course, no one looks at that and they don't say anything about that when the house is for sale. Major cracking, top to bottom. The only thing that's holding it together are the weeds and the dirt. The front entry steps, which were not disclosed, and he had glued on huge partitions or areas of concrete, which was an oversight by the home inspector when I moved in. 2 huge slabs from the other side fell apart. I had estimates come in, major crumbling and sprung within the interior of the steps. I did send you one quote, and that was the most reasonable. The others were a lot more to repair those steps. So, and the railing is loose. A lot of these renovations these discrepancies are major. At this point in time, I can't afford to do them, which I would love to do. So I basically keep the maintenance up as best I can as a senior. Another issue I'd just like to discuss is that I'm at best, I still think that $70,000 assessment is reasonable with all these major discrepancies. And I'd like I said, to reiterate that the realtor, what they put in, what actually is in the house are 2 different things. And unless you come in and you tour it for yourself, you'll see there were not major rentals. Yes, the exterior of the home was done prior to me moving in. They just repainted the outside. They've got some, I've got most of the original, I've got the hardwood floors in here. They did put some laminate in some of the rooms. It's not high quality laminate. And what else was done in this house? I think that's it. The furnace is fine. I don't know the year that it was replaced. And I just find that the home is just not, it's not assessed correctly. And it even wasn't back in 2018 for that. What was the price? What was it assessed at? 368. I'm just looking at my paper. Anyways, I think that's about it. Detached garage, concrete steps, the flooding. Yeah, and as far as, like I said, the countertops, they were replaced in the kitchen. So they're not major renovations as falsely advertised in the realtor's report. And it's a huge sore right now to me, is having a rental house beside me. Not knowing that. I mean, it was my issue or not doing enough of my homework prior to purchasing, but it's been a total nightmare with the people that have come and gone, and the family of people just don't keep up the properties accordingly. And it brings my value down with what goes on next door in a rental property. But I think without going into any more detail, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll leave it in your good hands I'll be open to further questions and anything else that we have to go from here on. And thank you for listening to my case.
What do you think the value should be?
You know what? At best, right now, a reasonable value. Keeping in mind some of these major issues that I'm dealing with since I've moved in and haven't been disclosed or I've discovered later, I'm looking at maybe 340, 350 tops, 350 tops. Because if I turn around right now and try to sell my home and somebody wants me to disclose everything, which would be only just and right. I mean, I've had a house before. I wouldn't get near the price that it's assessed at or will be further assessed at this time. It's just not reality. House looks pretty, great, looks great from the outside, but when you come in the inside and you know anything about homes, you know the issues that are going on and the nightmares that I continually live with, in particular the basement flooding, in particular my garage flooding, which they totally did not disclose. And I guess when I was shown pictures of the home and it looks nice, there was a picture of the backyard in the wintertime and he had all the snow blown away from the garage area. That was an indicator. He knew there was flooding going on in my garage. But anyways, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Gauthier, questions of the applicant?
I actually don't have any questions. Everything is quite clear. I'm good.
Okay. Ms. Rempel?
Yes, thank you. I am wondering, in the brief that you submitted to us, you had some pictures that were enclosed. And I'd like to refer to, I believe it's an inspection report.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me when this inspection report was done?
That was done in 2018, prior to me just moving in, taking possession.
Okay. So you were aware that this house had some of these issues then, obviously.
I was not aware of the basement. He did say there was mold. So for all I know, that was an issue. Maybe the hot water tank went or something, and they never had any dehumidifier down there to take out moisture, which was noted. So first thing I did was purchase dehumidifiers for the basement area. And I wasn't aware of the garage. I was aware of the chimney. But there was issues with a chimney with water coming in, and I had to pay money to cap off the chimney to prevent further bowing of the chimney, even though it continually cracks every year. What else? And the garage I was not aware of, with the holes all along the side of the garage. There was snow. When we went through the home inspection, there was also snow at that time of year. So a lot of those things, even the steps, were not disclosed.
There was bowing in the roof, I know.
No, bowing in the chimney area where the chimney goes from the bottom to the top. It curves in from moisture buildup and it's cracking just because it's been sealed off from the inside of the house. But there's water penetrating from the top of the chimney, which is making a structural disaster at this point. They say eventually it'll come down and come down once that cracking starts, which it has. And I haven't been able to afford to have it demolished as yet.
Can you tell me when these pictures were taken that you submitted?
The pictures of the chimney and the steps?
The pictures that you submitted as evidence?
Yes, probably within the last 6 months.
Within the last 6 months?
Yes, they're all current, basically.
Okay. Also, I'm wondering, have you done any work at all to the house since you have purchased it? Maybe you could tell us about that.
I've had just some new carpeting put on my steps. And I had a new hot water tank installed in 2020. The old one went.
And that's it for any work you've done in the home? Or
yes.
On the home? Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Marks, questions of the applicant?
Yes, I've got some questions regarding that report as well. It says here there's a noticeable bow or sag in the rear dormer area. And this was done prior to you purchasing the home?
Yes.
Okay. And nothing's been done on that rear dormer area?
No, I had talked to some people in the roofing industry and they say that's common with a lot of these older homes, and I've talked to some of the neighbors, but I was aware of that too. That's another discrepancy, but I didn't really add that into my case. It is part of it, but it's one thing after another. So
Now, there's another thing here on interior walls. There's mold and moisture damage in the walls in the basement.
correct.
Has anything been done on that at all?
No, there's been no work done on that. All I do is try and keep it dry. When the water comes through in the spring or after the winter melt, then I just have to put flood dams down and have a shop vac and keep it as dry as possible and watch for the mold.
Now, on your garage, those holes at the bottom of the siding, was that prior to you purchasing?
Yes, it was. I discovered it after the spring melt, the big holes all on the side.
Okay. Has that been repaired since?
No, it hasn't. And in 2020, I tried to get some people out to look at it. Of course, anybody, siding companies, anybody doing renovations, they're so backed up. And so I haven't had it done. I've just put tape over it to keep the moisture out.
Okay. And the picture of your garage floor, the floor itself is pretty wet, and the bottom plate in the garage floor, is there any rotting on?
No, there's no rotting whatsoever. And I've since done caulking and tried to block anything from there, but there's no rotting whatsoever. And I keep trying to keep it as dry as possible during that. And the water started coming through. I noticed a bit of water in the garage when I went through my home inspection, but it was nothing significant. It's not until after most of the snow melted, it started coming through. So it's been from day one, I've had to deal with this nightmare. So the house isn't as pretty as I thought it was when I first moved in.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. I just have a couple questions. You had talked about, well, you've been in this house a few years now, correct?
Yes, 4 years, just over 4 years.
Okay, so each and every spring, you had talked about you get water through the walls and in the finished part and in the unfinished part, correct?
In the basement, you're referring to?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
So have you had any estimates in regards to, curing the problem?
I've had verbal estimates done just this past spring because, of course, the winter that we had last year and all of the heavy spring rains that we had, it was worse than ever. I had verbal estimates done, and the only thing that I decided to do, and maybe I should have included that, was just to build up my front garden, just to add more stone along the front, more dirt, and just correct or realign the border along the house. But the only estimates I've had done for those were verbal, and everybody was in different places, whether it's come downstairs, they'd have come in the basement, they'd have to take off whatever drywall there was to see where the water's coming from, or I would have to trench and dig up all the ground around the surrounding area to check out the weeping tiles or install them. I have a well on the outside of the basement that has no drainage whatsoever on the side of the house. We discovered that too, so the water has nowhere to go.
So what sort of figures have they thrown around?
We were looking anywhere from 3,000 to 4,500 to go inside the house and remove all the drywall and troubleshoot from there. To I have a friend who owns a foundation company, and it probably cost me close to $8,000, $7,000 to $8,000 to go in, trench out all the dirt around the house, and install weeping tiles or see what the issue was. And also, there is a sump pump in the basement, but it's not properly installed. It's just a cheap man-made job or whatever. It does pull off some water, but it's not doing the job.
So my final question is, you have stated what you would like to see of $340,000 to $350,000. How did you conclude that value?
I'm just doing that with trying to figure out or factor in renovations that will have to be done. What's going to come out of pocket if I want to if I decide to sell this property and try and resolve some of these issues. It's going to cost me that and more. That's why I would prefer the lower figure. It's going to cost me that and much more to fix some of these major deficiencies. I think number one is the basement, where I can't put these carpet tiles back on the basement floor because I'm afraid of them getting wet. The doors moved from the hinges. The mold in the basement is a big issue too. So we're looking at health issues here. And the garage, I don't know how I'm going to fix the garage. I would have to get the siding repaired. The steps are no big deal. They'll last a few more years. But some of these major issues are going to cost a lot in order to put this house up to par.
All right. I thank you. Mr. Gauthier, any summation if you like?
I think everything's pretty clear. Thank you.
Janice, final word, anything you want to add? Anything further, Jan? Oh, she's.
Oops. No, sorry.
No? All right.
No, thank you. I appreciate everyone taking the time to hear my case, and please go easy on me.
Leave it with us. I thank you for your presentation and results very soon, and have a good day. I thank you.
You also. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Mr. Gauthier, I think that finishes you. So you are free to go. And we'll have your other colleague, Mr. Ryan Vanderama, sworn in. Mr. Lund, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Valderrama, please state your full name.
Ryan Valderrama.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Lund, you can swear in Mr. Smith too.
Mr. Smith, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
We affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Mr. Smith, you have two cases or two files to present. You have 88 Swindon Way and you have 2300 Ness Avenue.
That's correct, yes.
All right. Mr. Vanderama, the floor is yours and we'll go to 88 Swindon Way whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property has a file number of 22-2850. It has a roll number of 10-006-070-500. Property is located at 88 Swindon Way. We're dealing with the roll year of 2023, using April 1st, 2021. The assessed value for the property is $10,249,000. It is classified as a residential 3 with a liability of taxable. The property is residential apartments with one building, 6 stories, actual and effective year built of 1988, has 63 suites with 74 outdoor parking. It is zoned as residential multifamily, has a land area of 64,688 square feet, a planned area of 11,076 square feet, and gross floor area of 67,254 square feet. And on page 3 is the aerial photo of the subject property. On page 4 is the income valuation summary. Again, there are 63 total units with an average monthly rent per unit of $1,273.40. The gross potential rent is $962,690. The vacancy rate is 3.2%, which is $30,806 in dollars. It has an effective gross income of $931,884, an expense ratio of 45.56%, which is $424,566. The property has a net operating income of $507,318, and applying the capitalization rate of 4.95%, the capitalized income is $10,248,848, or $10,249,000 rounded. On the next page, page 5, there are some rent comparables. The first one is located at 555 Lonark Street. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,289. The next one is located at 465 Lonark Street. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,290. The third one is located at 495 Lonark Street. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,338. And the last one is located at 5445 Rodland Boulevard. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,424. On the next page is the map of the subject property and the comparable rents. On page 7 and page 8 are the capitalization rates and the capitalization rate evidence. I will just read through these 2 pages, Mr. Chair, and it will be applied on the next subject property that we will be hearing.
Okay.
So capitalization rates, a direct capitalization method is used to convert a property's single year of income into an indication of value by dividing the estimated net operating income by an annual or by an appropriate capitalization rate. Capitalization rates can be derived for properties that have sold by dividing each property's net operating income by its sale price. For the 2023 general assessment, or April 1st, 2021 reference date, capitalization rates were derived from model-generated estimates of net operating income and sale prices that were time-adjusted to April 1st, 2021. The assessed values produced by the application of these model-generated capitalization rates were compared to sale prices, and assessment to sale price ratios were calculated. The resulting ratio statistics for the Assessment and Taxation Department's ATD income-producing models satisfy the standards specified and set forth in the Standard on Ratio Studies, which was approved in April 2013 and published by the International Association of Assessing Officers. Assessment and Taxation Department's capitalization rates are further supported by comparison with real estate market reports from Colliers International Canada, CBRE National Research, and Cushman and Wakefield. The following chart compares ATD's capitalization rates with the published rates by fitting ATD's capitalization rates with the published rates by ATD's property type classes are more comprehensive so that they cover every property type in the city. The 20th and 80th percentiles show the range of capitalization rates used by ATD for 60% of the parcels within that specific property type. In many cases, the published rates fall within 20th and 80th percentiles, indicating the tenability of
Hello?
Same.
Everything's frozen.
capitalization rate.
Everything's frozen.
I'm sorry.
Stephen?
There is it
Okay.
frozen?
No, it's fine now.
Okay.
Fine now.
Even to get back.
All right. If I may continue, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just a moment, Stephen is out of the room, so let's just wait for him to get back.
Okay.
I'd like to take a 2-minute recess to check the stream. We're having.
Okay. Let's take 5. Okay. Let's take 5. Okay, we'll call the hearing back to order. Mr. Vanderrama, we're dealing with 88 Swindon Way, and the floor was yours, so you may continue. Mr. Vanderrama, you can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
So, where was that? The page 7. We go back to page 7 of my brief. Towards the bottom of the chart, we have the multifamily section. The cap rates fall between 4.8 to 5.6%. And on page 8 is the capitalization rate evidence. The following is a sample of actual sales that took place during the reference period. The purpose for showing these individual cap rates or capitalization rates is to illustrate the accuracy of the model and substantiate the model-derived capitalization rates. They're not meant to be comparable specific to the subject property. Net operating income has been developed through stabilizing owner-reported income and expense information. Capitalization rates have been derived by dividing the property's net operating income by its sale price. So there are a few capitalization rate evidence here. The first one is located at 2390 McPhillips. It was sold on October 9th, 2020 for $19,400,000. It has 90 suites, an effective and actual year built of 2015. And the sale translates to $215,556 per suite. The calculated cap rate on that one is 4.79%. The next one is located at 700 St. Mary's. It was sold on April 7th, 2020. It was sold for $1,035,000. It has 9 suites, has an actual and effective year built of 1961. The sale translates to $115,000 per suite, and it has a calculated cap rate of 3.6%. The next one is located at 203 Bertrand. It was sold on June 14, 2019. It was sold for $925,000. It has 9 suites. It has an effective and actual year built of 1963. The sale translates to $102,778 per suite. The calculated cap rate for that one is 4.77%. The next one is located at 555 Corridon. It was sold on November 26, 2018. It was sold for $1,575,000. It has 16 suites. It has an actual and effective year built of 1955. The sale translates to $98,438 per suite. The calculated cap rate for that one is 5.74%. The next sale is located at 677 Maryland. It was sold on December 15, 2020. It was sold for $2,400,000. There are 32 suites. The year built is 1913 and the effective age is 1972. The sale translates to $75,000 per suite, and the calculated cap rate is 5.5%. The last one is located at 32 Arden. It was sold on March 1st, 2019. It was sold for $2,875,000. It has 23 suites with an actual year built of 1969, an effective age of 1984. The sale translates to $125,000 per suite, and the calculated cap rate is 5.05%. On the next page, page 9 to page 13 is where the 2020 income and expense mailer for the subject property is. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, questions of the assessor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of my questions will be the same for the second property, so they'll carry forward with the course, except some exceptions regarding questions on rental comparables or specific questions.
All right.
In looking at the valuation for the property, so the rental comparables that let's start. I'll back up slightly here. So given workload at the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department, I'm assuming you probably haven't had opportunity to inspect either property today. Is that a fair?
No, I wasn't able. No, I wasn't able to.
Yeah, certainly understandable. Looking at the rental comparables that are provided here. So the subject property is a cooperative housing complex, and the finishes and development are of a serviceable basic nature, essentially. So when I look at the comparables here, the first three properties are on Lanark, and they are managed by Towers Realty. And when I looked at them, it indicated that each of the first three properties on Lanark had undergone complete renovations. Would that drive rents that would be higher than the subject property in terms of comparison of the units?
I'm not aware of the excuse me, of the renovations or anything that transpired in the rent comparables, Mr. Chair. So I wouldn't be able to comment or at least answer the question.
And that's fair. And I always feel awkward in asking these questions because it's difficult to look at every comp in detail. So I certainly understand that. The last comparable that's shown there, 5445 Roblin Boulevard, that would be Vassaloon Estates. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what that is.
Sorry, and again, I apologize for asking questions that you haven't had the opportunity to review the detail of. So this is Vassaloon Estates. It's stated to be Charleswood's finest retirement community is how they advertise it. It would be a 55 plus luxury apartment life lease facility. Just having stated that would also drive higher rents than the subject property in a typical scenario. Is that fair to say?
I am unaware of that, Mr. Chair. However, if we just look at the effective year built, 2001 compared to 1988, you can see there's a difference in average monthly rent per unit. So it goes with the other rent comparables, Mr. Chair. They're almost similar in terms of effective year built. So other than that, I wouldn't know or have any information with regard to renovations in this brief or in this evidence, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Just skipping forward then to page number 7 and the capitalization rate. So I'm just going to briefly cover a bit of ground that you did previously here as well. So in the second paragraph on page 7 there, the city's evidence states for the 2023 general assessment, capitalization rates were derived from model generated estimates of net operating income and sale prices that were time adjusted to April 1, 2021. So in my reading of that, the model that is used in order to generate the assessments is based on estimated capitalization rates, not on actuals. It's not based, the information that goes into the model is not actual income, actual net income at time of sale divided by the sale price at time of sale. Is that a fair comment?
Yes.
Okay. And then just quickly, and I believe this was done by another assessor, the capitalization rate evidence on page number 8. Number 700 St. Mary's Road there, the second property. This property had significant foundational issues at the time of sale, and subsequently those it's undergone a full repair of that foundation, and the units themselves have been fully renovated. So would it be a fair comment to indicate that 3.6% capitalization rate was not what that the property was essentially purchased for its future revenue potential?
Whatever the motivation is during that time, we're not aware. However, straight calculation of the cap rate indicates towards 3.6%, Mr. Chair.
That's certainly fair. So I'll comment on that, I guess, in my evidence. So if we were to remove that second comparable of 3.6%, if I do an average of the capitalization rates that are shown there, they come to 5.17%. Would that be a fair comment?
Well, averaging them would be whatever you calculated would be a fair comment. However, as indicated in the first two paragraphs of this section or this page, it's not really meant to be comparable specific to the subject property, Mr. Chair.
Certainly fair. So, and again, when I look at the cap rate comparables on page number 8, so 2 of them are 9 units. The subject is 63. So if we take out those 2 units and look at just the larger transactions, the cap rate range would be 4.79% to 5.74%, with the majority of the cap rates being 5% and above. Would that be fair?
Again, using those parameters, Mr. Chair, it's fair. It's a fair comment, Mr. Chair.
Those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
I thank you. Mr. Rempel, questions of the assessor?
Yes, I just have a couple of questions, and one is on the income and expense statement that's been submitted as part of the brief. And what I'm wondering is there's no information on this statement about the annual income received. Is that typical?
Yes, we receive incomplete income and expense information, Madam.
And
but
if
there's just a few of them. It's not always.
Okay. If that occurs, do you consider the property owners to be compliant with filing the income and expense information?
Well, this is a social housing, so we typically we use market rents and market expenses on this. So yeah, we put more weight on market, which is also model derived, model generated on page 4.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Marks?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Vanderama, it seems like this cap rate is pretty low. So, but like you say, it's all model driven?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there any overrides in this evaluation at all? You know?
None that I'm aware of at this moment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, Mr. Smith, your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the property that we're dealing with today is 88 Swindon Way. It is Carpathia Housing Co-op is the owner, and it is a cooperative housing property. It is a multi-story apartment block operated as a housing co-op with a mandate to provide affordable rental accommodation to residents in the city of Winnipeg. If we look at my page number 2, there's a summary of some of the detail for the subject property. So ownership of the property, this, unlike some housing co-ops, the property owners, Carpathia Housing Co-op, own the property outright. It's not a leased land situation where either the city or Manitoba Housing provided the land for it to be developed on. In this case, Carpathia actually owns the land, so we don't have that particular complication with this property. Property was built in 1988. Sits on 1.5 acres, and we have a total of 63 units. So the division of units is 17 one-beds, 36 two-bedroom units, and 10 three-bedroom units. So the 10 three-bedroom units is a little bit non-standard. You don't typically see a lot of three-bedroom units in the marketplace, but they have provided those for their particular use in this property. Moving on to page number 4 and description of the improvements themselves. Again, masonry apartment built in 1988. You can see some of the basics there. Finishes for the suites. This is important in looking at comparables for the subject. Suites are generally feature linoleum or vinyl tile in kitchens and bathrooms, carpeting in bedrooms, living room and hallways, painted walls, of course, stucco ceilings, kitchen cabinetry and flooring typically are original to the date of construction, with a small percentage having been replaced in recent years as wear and tear brings them to the point where replacement is essentially not avoidable. So the vast majority of the property is original, with some updates on a suite by suite basis where required. The photos of the property begin on page 5. So we have a couple of the exteriors. And moving on, we get to the interior. So page number 6, there is one meeting room on the main floor as shown, as it is a housing co-op. And then the suite finishes themselves begin on page number 7. You can see the Euro style cabinetry as popular in the 1980s there in the kitchen, with original ranges and refrigerators, original linoleum flooring, etc., carpeting in the bedrooms. Same kind of build out in the bathrooms, and a different kitchen shown at the bottom of page number 9 there. So that is the typical finish of the suites themselves. So they are basic and of a serviceable nature. The site itself is shown on my page number 12, and the location shown on page number 13. One thing I should point out, which I haven't mentioned, is that some of the units have balconies, and in my discussions with property managers and multifamily investors in the city of Winnipeg, balconies are becoming a very significant issue with regard to the cost of repairing and replacing them. And we have investors that are now at the point where they're discounting properties on purchase for the issue of having balconies, as it doesn't really provide. There's an amenity there, in that you can, store your bicycle or your barbecue or things of that nature, or sit on it in some cases. But the cost of replacing them, it's been indicated to me, is between $30,000 and $40,000 typically, and they are in need of that on a 20 to 25 year cycle, roughly. So subject property being built in '88. I can't specifically speak to the state of the particular balconies, but certainly that will become an issue for the subject property over time as well. From there, let's move forward to the valuation of the subject. So, as had been pointed out, 2020 income and expense return that was provided didn't specifically break out the income, which is not optimal. What I have done is refer back to the 2019 return, which I have provided in the addenda of my material, and make adjustments as appropriate. So if we look at my page 15, I've given you the monthly rental charges on a per unit basis. So we have 1 bedrooms at the end of 2019 being $850, 2 beds being $963, 3 beds, there's 2 different types, being between $1,131 and $1,073, depending on the unit type. Now, one thing I should have noted is that there are also mobility units within this particular property where they provide wider entry doorways, more open plan space, accessible counters in the kitchen, bathroom accommodations, things of that nature for mobility challenged people as well. So somewhat non-standard in that regard. So those were the actual monthly charges at the end of 2019. What I have done in making my projection for the subject property is take the residential tenancies branch increase guidelines for the subsequent 2 years and apply that to that annual rent. And this produces a gross rental income of $750,799 as indicated on that page. Now, subsequent to doing this analysis, I was able to obtain the 2021 rents at the beginning of the year, and running through those, they actually come out to $741,656. So we've actually projected somewhat higher than what the actual rents for the subject property were as of the valuation time frame. So those are the rents in place. Now, are those fair representation of market rents? Well, let's look at that on page number 16. So we've provided you with a rental rate comparison chart here, as shown on the chart on page 16. We have 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms indicated. And as you can see from the chart, the subject property rental rates typically fall within that. I'm afraid I don't have 1 beds indicated on there, but the 2 and 3 bedrooms are covered well. So if we look at 2 bedroom rents, we have a low end of $718 up to a high end of $1,220, with the vast majority of the properties falling in that call it upper 800s up to 1,000 or a little over. Now, I'll just point out a couple of points here. Number 10, Albina Way. These are townhomes that back onto a retention pond, lake amenity. They have separate driveways, separate attached garages. It's essentially your own home. So that's the high end. at 1220. We're looking at an apartment here, so not super comparable, but it was included in our chart. Number 25 Valhalla is probably a good indicator. It is a seniors facility in northern end of East Kildonan, just north of Chief Peguis. 2-bedroom rents at $883 and 3-bedroom rents at $993. That's particularly good comparison, I believe. And we have 1295 Dakota indicating 911 for their 2-bedroom rents. That would be a superior property to the subject in terms of the build out of the property. The units themselves are superior. And you can see the remainder of the comps there. 3 bedrooms. Our range is a low end of $730. Not going to put a lot of weight on that. So we move up slightly, $819. Up to, again, a high end of $1,300 for the significantly superior 10 Albina Way. So the vast majority of those, again, fall in that, call it $1,000 and slightly above, up to $1,200 is kind of the general range. The average is 2 bedrooms averaging $951. 3 bedrooms averaging 1010, etc. So if we look at the subject property, so our initial rents that we had used were $963 for 2 bedrooms and $1,131 for the 3 beds. I then, of course, made the adjustment upwards from there, bringing the annual rent up by $30,000. The actuals in 2021 were $992 for the 2 beds and $1,165 for the first 3 bedroom, $1,106 for the second type of 3-bedroom unit. So they have had those adjustments to the rent over time. Now, those certainly fall within the range of the rental comparables. These are the best comparable properties that are out there, the most similar in terms of the type of units and amenities, location, etc. I would also point out that if we look at my page 16, again, having had a discussion with Residential Tenancies Branch, they do indicate that if the property were to trade on the open market, the existing rental structure, the existing leases in place would be required to remain in place following conversion to a market apartment. So each of these occupants, as being part of the co-op, owns a share in the co-op. So they obviously have possession of their unit on an ongoing basis, and according to RTB, have the right to remain in place under the rental structure that they are currently paying. So, having reviewed this information, we believe, having made our upward adjustment of the rents, that the gross rental income of $750,799 is representative of the marketplace. And again, if I point out the city's comparables for this particular property, they have all been fully renovated and would drive greater rental rates than the subject. Moving on to expenses, page number 17. I've given you the CMHC expenses. What we've done in our analysis is use the actual vacancy amount for the subject property, which was somewhat lower than that, which you'll see in our summary. The expenses themselves, I've provided you with a 2-year stabilization for the subject property for the 2018 and 2019 time period, as that was the information that was available to us. So if you look at the chart, at the bottom of page number 17, you can see the actual expenses ranging between $392,000 and $396,000, with the stabilized expenses coming in at $418,443 following adjustments. Now, what were those adjustments? Generally, we've done 2-year averages for the subject property to create a stabilized expense allowance. Where appropriate, we've made other adjustments such as changing the property management to 5% of effective gross income, which brings that expense down from 47 or 43,000 to 40,000 roughly. And we have made an adjustment to the repair and maintenance budget for the property. The prior 2 years were indicating 41 and 52,000. This is significant under contribution on the repair and maintenance side in a normal situation. We have bumped that to $1,250 per unit. Now, typically $1,250 per unit would be a conservative estimate as far as repair and maintenance. In a normal situation, we generally see in the neighborhood of $1,500 per unit. We're using $1,250. So again, we're on the conservative side. And there's a number of items here that we haven't included any actual expenses for, such as maintenance supplies, marketing, advertising, security, etc. So those would typically be found in normal situations. We haven't included them. I think our estimate of the expenses is a very conservative estimate at $418,000. So that concludes the expenses, and we can move on to the capitalization rate. Now, I'll try and be quick about this. So the subject property is a cooperative housing property designed to provide affordable accommodation in the market. It's a social housing project, essentially. So if we look at my page number 19, I'll just read a little bit to you here. Determining market value for affordable housing properties for assessment purposes is difficult, as properties do not transact on the market. We don't generally see these sold. And therefore, there are no directly comparable sales to utilize in determining market value. Even if they did trade, the net operating income wouldn't necessarily be, and resultant cap rate wouldn't necessarily, depending on the structure of the property, financial structure of the property, indicate a true cap rate to utilize. Additionally, social and affordable housing properties cannot legitimately be directly compared to standard market apartment transactions, as social housing properties have considerable restrictions and burdens that are not present for market apartments. These include rental income restrictions, rental market restrictions, smaller pool of potential tenants, additional operating expenses, physical condition, and disposition restrictions, as well as other factors. There's an expert in this field, Mr. Richard Bolton. He's an accredited commercial appraiser in the United States who's published a book on this subject titled Valuation and Market Studies for Affordable Housing. He states, developing a market-derived cap rate for an income-restricted property begins with an analysis of the available rates for similar unrestricted properties. Then these rates are adjusted based on the risk factors that an investor would consider in developing a capitalization rate. The result is a cap rate based on market factors and associated risks. In the final analysis, property tax assessment must take into account the public purpose of the project, the overall benefits and burdens, and the restricted nature of the operating rent. So that's backing up essentially what I've included at the top of the page. It's the theory that's important here, not the jurisdiction. So it doesn't matter that he's from the United States. So what is our task here then? We need to look at market transactions and make the appropriate adjustments. So to that end, we've provided a capitalization rate study at the bottom of page number 19. These are all transactions where properties are investment properties And they were all purchased for the in-place income and expense. They weren't purchased for future renovation potential in any of these cases. They were either renovated already or new properties, etc. So if we look at the cap rate comparison chart on page 19, we have a total of 15 properties here. They range in age, size, location in the city. So these are used essentially to frame an appropriate cap rate for the subject property. So let's look at what we have. Our overall capitalization rate range runs from a low end of 4.95%, that being number 6, 100 Southview, up to a high of 7.9%. That's number 9, 510 Gray. That's the full range. The outlier there, 7.9%, and a property on Osborne in the 7s as well. One on Alex, a premium to the capitalization rate. So we are at the top end, essentially, of that range at 5.75%. The summary of our valuation is shown on page number 24. You can see the income as shown. We have increased that from the actuals in 2019, and we've actually exceeded what the 2021 would be. We've included parking revenue, laundry revenue, and they had some contribution from CMHC, which we have also included, bringing us to the gross potential revenue. We have simply deducted the actual vacancy from that single year. Now, obviously, vacancy varies in our valuation. We've been overly conservative here and only made the deduction of the actual, giving us an effective gross of $795,921. Our expense allowance, you've seen the stabilization, comes to $418,443, which is under what the city has projected at $424 for the subject. I'll also point out there are a number of categories that we did not include information on, as we did not have information on those particular expense items. Typically, you would have expenses for those, so that amount would not be on the high side. If anything, would be on the low side. So our resultant NOI is $377,479. Applying a cap rate, again, conservative cap rate at 5.75% gives us a final market value of $6,565,000. Now, if you run through each of these items, I recognize that the valuation difference looks significant there, but as pointed out, this is a model estimate that the city has done on the subject property. You run through our valuation, each of these items has been carefully considered, compared to market, and we've been on the conservative side in each of our estimates. So our final market value for the subject is $6,565,000. And that is my presentation. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Valderrama, questions of Mr. Smith?
Yes, Mr. Chair. On page 17, expense allowances. So the basis of $1,250 per unit is based on market. Is that correct?
That is based on market evidence, yes.
While the other expense line items are all based on your actuals, correct?
With the exception of the property management, where we've applied 5% of effective gross income, which has brought that expense allowance or that expense item down.
Okay. And on page 19, capitalization rate. Under the age columns, is there any properties here close to the age range of the subject property at about 1988?
As far as date of construction? Well, our sale comparables as shown range significantly in size and date of construction. So I don't see any particularly that are of the 1988 vintage.
And even on location, is there anything that's closest in terms of the location proximity?
No, we're not able to find any sales in the immediate area that transacted in that time frame. I would point out, I guess, that we have some very well located properties in areas that would be considered similar to the subject in the cap rate study.
And on the number of suites column, there are some that's close to the subject property, correct? In terms of number of suites?
There are, yes.
So if I may, they are 1, 2, 8, and 14. Is that correct? Well, 14 is
yes,
57. Yeah.
In terms of the number of suites, yes, that would be correct. But we're selecting for a single item there out of all the factors that go into a cap rate.
Right. And so those 4 that are a little bit close in terms of number of suites, they're all in the age range of probably around 1940s, 50s, and 60s. That safe to say?
It does indicate their
Oh, no,
age
sorry,
range.
not 40s. 60s, 50s, 60s, around those time frames.
It does. As I stated, these properties, many of them, most of them had been fully renovated prior to purchase, so there wasn't any potential further boost to revenue. So while the date of construction may be 1969, it doesn't necessarily reflect the condition of the property.
Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Ms. Rempel?
Yes, I'm wondering in terms of the pictures that you have in your brief, when those were taken.
Those were taken in the summer, fall of 2019.
And just a little more information on the balconies that you were talking about. Can you tell me how many of the suites would have balconies?
That's a good question, and I don't want to give you a false answer here, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories that could have balconies, and they have 6 balconies per floor. So we'd be looking at 36.
And I am wondering if you have any kind of an estimate as to how much it would cost to replace them. As you said, an estimated $30,000 to $40,000. Do you have an estimate in writing somewhere in your evidence? Or?
No, and I'm not, to be clear, just to clarify, I guess, I'm not taking that particular comment and making a specific adjustment regarding it. What I'm pointing out is that investors in the market will look at that in the purchase of the property as far as what they would be willing to pay for it. The 30 to 40,000, they have very good contacts in the multifamily residential management community and that have experience in this particular issue. And I've spoken with a number of them, and they've indicated that it's in the 30 to 40,000 range for ones that they have completed.
And would that be considered a capital cost?
That would be a capital cost for the property, yes. On a replacement basis, yeah. On an annual basis, they say that they typically have roughly $1,000 per balcony that they end up spending on a maintenance issue.
And I'm wondering, in terms of the vacancy expenditures. You said that you have used the actual vacancy expenditure of $2,100. Am I?
Yes, we did not, we didn't apply the market vacancy to it. We simply used the actual vacancy that was indicated for the subject property in that 2019 return. If you look at my page A5, it indicates the vacancy and bad debt adding up to $2,100.
So that's a 1% vacancy rate as indicated in the income and expense.
I believe it would be under 1% actually. I didn't work out what the specific percentage was. I simply applied that amount. Now, obviously vacancy varies and typically vacancy would be higher than that, but in our valuation, we felt that that would be, given all of our parameters, a fair reflection. We have to keep in mind the overall market value that's produced, right? I don't want to apply a parameter that's going to produce a false market value.
And the rental income that you have provided is based upon a model of, it's not the actual rental income received.
It is, so it's an extrapolation of the 2019 actual income. So if you look at my page A6, and then back at my income calculations on page 15, you can see the rental charges for each of the unit types as shown on those pages. Now that was for 2019. So we applied, I applied 2 years of residential tenancies branch increases that were allowed, the specific percentage that were allowed, to increase it to the $750,799. Now, subsequently, I was able to get to the 2021 actuals, and they came in about $10,000 less. So we're higher than what the actuals were.
And I see that the expenses that you have indicated of $418,443 are close to the expenses that the city has submitted, but the expense rate is higher. Your expense rate is higher?
The expense rate is higher in that the revenue for the property, the effective gross income is lower. So in that way, it produces that higher percentage. Now, what we really should be looking at is what the actual expenses are, right? Not the particular expense ratio. So we have the actuals from the subject property with appropriate changes where indicated based on market evidence.
I'm a little confused then because I'm probably just not understanding this properly.
That's fine.
Because on the income and expense statement, pardon me, submitted, it says the expenses were $734,850. So I'm probably just not understanding this, but.
Flipping to my page number A4. So on A4 there, this being the 2019 year, they have a total expense amount of $473,092. So we have to deduct things that are not real estate related from that. So let me look at my page here. So if you look at my expense detail chart on page number 17 for 2019, we have $392,820. And that is removing the interest and GST amount of $80,245 that they've included in their expenses, which is not a real estate expense.
Thank you for that clarification. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Mr. Marks?
Yes, with this whole balcony thing happening, Do they have a reserve fund set aside for this?
I couldn't actually answer that question. I'm not certain if they have a reserve fund set aside for that or not. I do know that as I represent a number of co-ops, they may have reserve funds, but they typically operate on a pretty bare bones basis in their maintenance and capital expenditures. So I don't know that they would have an amount that would cover that off. Again, I'm not for them. I'm not saying that it's going to cost them X amount of money. We're looking at property on a market value basis. So if we are buying that property on April 1, 2021, and balconies have never been looked after or never replaced, whatever, what will your cost be? Or what will you be willing to pay for that is kind of why I was bringing that up. I don't want to make it the main issue of what we're dealing with here. It's simply one component.
Right. The building having been built in 1988, balconies haven't been touched yet.
Not to my knowledge.
Could be a concern.
It could be a concern for a purchaser, yes.
I thank you. Mr. Smith, there's just a slight little error. On your first page of your presentation, you have got the value of $6,656,000.
I do.
So change that to coincide with your final. $6,565,000.
You are correct. $6,565,000.
Yeah. Okay. So here, yeah, that's really minor, but what I notice, I guess, Mr. Smith, for the panel members also, the cities has a gross income and you have a gross income. And the difference between gross income is over $200,000.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it's over 200,000. So
yes.
I mean.
So how do we explain that?
well, I just bring it up. You don't really have to explain it, okay? We're going to probably discuss it. But I mean, as a panel, I mean, it leaves us sort of with a few questions. So with that in mind, that's fine. We can sort through it. But these are some of the problems that we have.
Certainly.
Plus,
sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't mean to interrupt you. My very basic comment would be that the city's comps are for fully renovated suites with greater amenities versus the comparables that I've provided for you. So that should help guide you.
Okay, so I shouldn't have interrupted you. So you can explain it, and I think you just have. Okay, so the other thing is the subject property is a co-op, and the city's at close to the 5% mark, and you are 0.75 percentage point over on your cap rate. So do you feel as if and I know you had quoted, the American author for the Appraisal Institute and the book, but do you feel as if what I think you said, but I just want to make it official, what the premium is on a co-op building?
So
I think it's 3/4. Okay,
well,
is that correct?
So I see where you're what you're indicating there. So I would say that there is a premium we can't point to a specific premium as there's no transactions, right? So I can't say market evidence shows us that it's, 0.35% or anything. But when we look at the market transactions, and they typically range from a low end of 5% representing sales of newly constructed properties up to roughly 5.75%, 6%. Looking at the subject property within that range, it would fall at the upper end of that range is what we're indicating.
Okay. So one other question that I have, and that is in regards to the CMHC subsidy that you've indicated around $22,453. How does that come about?
Well, there's no direct subsidy to the occupants in that there is no. It's not rent geared to income. It's a cooperative housing, so their rental charges are their rental charges. I do not know the detail behind their specific agreement with CMHC, but they do receive that CMHC assistance. So it's only fair to include that in the valuation for this particular property. So
do you know offhand, Mr. Smith, how it comes about, or like co-op is based on the rents are based on the income of the tenants, correct?
Not always, and not for this property. And for the majority of mine, they have the set rental amount, and that is what they pay. So there is no subsidy to the tenants in that it's rent geared to income. It's not rent geared to income.
Mm-hmm. And do you know offhand? It's almost like an unfair question. Do you know when they get these subsidies, or when they apply for them, and when they receive them?
I'm afraid I have no further background on the CMHC subsidy. It might be an annual thing that they have to renew. I honestly do not have the information behind that. But again, I've included it as they received it in that particular income year.
Okay, that's fine, Mr. Smith. Either party wants summation?
I'm fine, Mr. Chair.
Ryan?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
All right. We're going to probably take, how about a 10-minute break, okay? And then we'll go to the last property, which is on Ness Avenue. Everybody happy with that? All right, thank you. Call the hearing back to order, and we're going to go to the last property that we have on the docket, which is 2300 Ness Avenue. Mr. Valderrama, whenever you're ready.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. The last property has a file number of 22-2968. It has a roll number of 07075561000. The property is located at 2300 Ness Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2023 using reference date of April 1st, 2021. There is a split assessment on this property, Mr. Chair. The first one has an assessed value of $984,000. It's classified as an institutional property with a liability of taxable. And the second assessment has an assessed value of $24,917,000. It is classified as an institutional property with a liability of taxable school exempt. The property is a residential apartment with 2 buildings, 1 to 3 stories. It has an actual years built of 1963-2018 and an effective years built of 1990-2018. It has 204 suites with 42 outdoor parking. It is zoned as residential multifamily. Has a land area of 166,027 square feet, planned area of 70,837 square feet, and a gross floor area of 179,578 square feet. And on page 3 is the aerial photo of the subject property. On page 4 is the income valuation summary. Again, there are 204 suites or units with $973.42 as an average monthly rent per unit. Again, there are two split assessments on this property, Mr. Chair. The first one is the apartment one. It has a classification and liability of 40S or taxable school exempt. It has a gross potential rent of $2,382,932. Has a vacancy rate of 3.2% or $76,254. Has an effective gross income of $2,306,678. Expense rate for this is 46.53% or $1,073,297. The net operating income is $1,233,381. Applying the capitalization rate of 4.95% on the net operating income, the capitalized income is $24,916,788 or $24,917,000. And there's also an adjustment, which is the 40D taxable component or the other assessment. It has a $984,000 adjustment, which is the land over and above what is legislated. This is a senior's home, and according to the legislation, anything over and above 2 acres is fully taxable. Or this is the over and above area of 2 acres, which is valued at $984,000, Mr. Chair. And on the rent comparables, I do have 4. The first one is located at 3563 Portage Avenue. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,112. The second one is located at 2440 Portage Avenue. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,127. The third one, is located at 1710 Portage Avenue. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,116. And the last one is located at 234 Ronald Street. It has an average monthly rent per unit of $1,247. And on the next page is the map of the subject property and the comparable rents. And on page 7 is where the capitalization rate chart is. And on page 8 is the capitalization rate evidence. And beginning of page 9 to page 13 is the 2020 income and expense information for the subject property. That's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith, questions of Mr. Vanderama?
Yes, just a few. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property was built in stages over time, correct? With new additions?
Based on the actual years built and effective years built, it looks like it is built in stages, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the original date of construction for the first part was 1963, and only the most recent portion was 2018, correct?
Looks like it is 2018. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, do you have the dates of the dates of construction? Sorry.
No, I don't have that information, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
And I'll do this quickly. The rental comparable, we're in agreement on the rent that's applied to the property, but I just want to frame it if I could. In looking at the rental comparables on page 5, first comparable 3563 Portage Avenue. This is this property is located adjacent to the Smart Center development, the old Unicity site with Walmart, Sobeys, Canadian Tire. Is that accurate?
I'm not aware of those amenities that are in there. However, if you look at the map in here, you'll see where it is at. So the first one, it's farther west, yes, on Portage Avenue.
Number two, 2440 Portage Avenue. So first one was owned and managed by WRE Development. Second one is Lakewood, large owner. That property has underground parking and it's on, it fronts on the river. And it would be adjacent to development with Shoppers Drug Mart, Manitoba Liquor Commission, Boston Pizza, the Keg, etc. Is that correct?
Well, without inspecting the property and the amenities around it, or shopping centers around it, or I would just refer to the map where it is located. And with regard to the underground parking, I'm not aware if there is. I haven't inspected the comparables.
And again, in asking these questions, I realize, you may not have had the chance to look at them. So I certainly understand that. Number three is Kiltartan Towers. This is on the north side of the Assiniboine River, immediately adjacent to the Route 90 bridge. So it's riverfront and kind of luxury apartments. Very close to Polo Park. Would that be a fair comment?
More. I'm just looking at the map. I may be close to Polo Park. I'm not really 100% certain, but I'm just referring to the map that I have on page 6.
Okay. That's right. Well, I see. Oh, yes. And then finally, number 4 is 234 Ronald. So this is part of the Courts of St. James complex. And when I look at the description of that property, they state spacious renovated suites, indoor pool and gym, underground access to the Courts of St. James shopping center, underground parking, sauna, car wash, party room, etc. I realize you haven't had a chance to see it, but would that be accurate?
I didn't. I haven't inspected that comparable.
Absolutely. Those are all of my questions. Thank you. In addition to carrying forward my questioning from the first property. Thank you very much.
All right. I thank you. Ms. Rempel, questions of the assessor?
I have no questions at this time.
Mr. Marks?
None for me.
Okay. Mr. Valderrama, the taxable 984,000, that is applicable because of the extra land, is it not? Over 2 acres?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So has this always been a split like this? Do you know?
I believe so, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask one follow-up question, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
As I forgot to, and it's in the same regarding the same thing. So the 984,000 institutional T portion. That's with regard to additional land, correct?
It's more of not really an additional land or excess land, if that's what's being asked, Mr. Chair. However, it's just the area over the 2 acres that's in the legislation, Mr. Chair.
I see. And is that a model rate that's applied to that?
It is model rate, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And do we have any land sale comparables or anything to give us backup, I guess, as to that whatever rate is applied to the additional land?
Yeah, it may have dropped in the evidence, Mr. Chair, and doing so, I was doing this template, and I'm not sure what happened, why it didn't include in the brief, Mr. Chair.
So we're looking at a total of 1.8 acres, I guess, correct?
Let me just
Yeah.
quickly calculate that one, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. The subject is 3.8. So,
For all of
You
my
know.
questions.
Yes,
yeah,
that's correct.
so the 1.8 is excess.
1.81.
Mr. Smith, you okay then?
Fine, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Smith, we're ready for your presentation. And just offhand, I'll throw you a little bit of a curve. The city of Winnipeg has got the number of units of 204, and you're at 203. So let's resolve that.
Sure. So they have a guest suite, which is part of the property. It is much smaller than a bachelor unit. It's smaller than your typical hotel room. It has no kitchen of any kind, no microwave, no fridge. It's a bathroom and a bed essentially, and it overlooks their dining room. There's no view. It wouldn't be rentable as a normal apartment unit on the market.
So your presentation is based at 203 then?
That's correct.
Okay, you may proceed then.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just with regard to the issue that we were just discussing regarding the land above and beyond 2.8 acres. So I'll just get everybody to flip to my page number 25. For a moment, I'll wait for you to get there. If everybody's there.
Yep.
So subject property has been assigned additional assessed value with an institutional taxable classification. This is based on property having greater than 2 acres permitted under the Elderly and Infirm Persons Housing Act. Property has 3.8 acres, so we're looking at 1.8. This guideline is inconsistently applied by the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department and leads to an inequitable treatment of properties with the institutional school tax exemption based on the Elderly and Infirm Persons Housing Act. Examples of properties with an elderly and infirm persons housing license which do not have the additional land value added to the assessed value include, but are not limited to, the following. So subject property is an assisted living center. The very first one I have here, 1115, 1125, Molson, Concordia Village 1 and 2 is also an assisted living center. It's 11.9 acres in size. They do not have an additional land component that is included in their assessment. I would point you to my page, very last page, A15 and A16 for evidence of that. So Concordia Village, description on A15. And then when you flip to A16, you can see that it's simply institutional school tax exempt. There is no additional land components or institutional taxable component for that property. Same use, same elderly and infirm persons housing issue. 321 Rue de la Cathedral, also assisted living. I see in looking at this that they do not have it as institutional school tax exempt, despite, so I'll put a little bit less weight on this, but they're also not assigned an overage essentially for the amount of space that they have over the 2 acre limit. So what this leads to is, and again, I didn't have time to go through the entire market and see each of these and provide the evidence, but the subject property has been inequitably assessed by being treated differently under the Elderly and Infirm Persons Housing Act guideline. The additional assessed value related to this land is inequitable and should be removed from the assessment. In addition, there's no specific evidence provided by the city with regard to what that valuation should be based on, no market evidence. So that aside, let's get back to the main issues here. 2300 Ness. This is owned and operated by Metropolitan Kiwanis Courts. It's a nonprofit entity, and it is an assisted living center. So it's not a market apartment. It's operated as an assisted living center in that the residents have their meals provided for them. There is some housekeeping activities, a number of specific supports that are provided to the residents of the complex that are not standard in a market apartment. So obviously that leads to a different financial profile for the property, and the standard methodology for valuing these properties for assessment purposes is to look at the real estate and strip out the business component of the assisted living in order to arrive at a fair market value for the real estate. So that is our task here today, and that's what I've done in our valuation. So let's look at my page number 3. Again, the property is owned by Metropolitan Kiwanis Courts. It is a non-profit assisted living center. The property has been built in multiple stages, beginning in 1963. There's not just 3 phases here. There are actually at least 4, with the second one certainly having fallen well before 2000. So there's older components of the property as well as newer components of the property. The 2018 addition is essentially the east wing of the property that was added in that time frame. So all of the remainder of the property is older than that particular date. So I'll show you that on the site plan. We have a total of, as I noted, 203 units, 21 of them being bachelors, 164 one-beds, and 18 two-bedroom units. So if you look at this on the marketplace, it's a very non-standard split of units. There being very few two-beds, a vast majority of one-beds, and a number of bachelors. Now, the other thing to note, which is very important in the valuation with regard to these units, is both the size of them and the build out of them, the finishes and layout, etc. So in order to meet the Elderly and Infirm Persons Housing Act, units have to fall below a certain size, which means that they're quite petite. And these units certainly meet that standard and are very much on the small side compared to a standard market apartment size for their comparable unit type. The units themselves are also of a very basic nature in terms of the finishes and build out, it being a non-profit assisted living center. So we'll see that in the units as we go forward. They do not have kitchens. They have some cabinetry and a sink, as well as a bar fridge, essentially, is what your kitchen is comprised of. So on the open market, there is no kitchen that could be utilized by a tenant in a standard circumstance. So let's look at the photos. Beginning on page number 4, some of the externals, moving on to page 5, front and rear. Page number 5 shows you the dining room that fronts on Ness. For the subject property, that's where the residents eat, obviously in COVID. And actually currently they're having their meals delivered to their particular units in order to avoid transmission of COVID and flu, etc. There's additional common areas as shown on page number 6. We have main floor space such as this. There are meeting rooms on each floor, things of that nature that add a significant amount of common area that a standard market apartment would not have. Page 6 shows you standard hallway and the standard kitchen on page 7 and bedroom on page number 7 as well. Now, this particular unit had newer flooring installed. They do not they've not gone through any kind of full renovation of the property by any means. It's on a unit by unit basis. Given wear and tear when required, they will upgrade a particular unit. Operating as a nonprofit, they're not renovating the full property in any circumstance. So the units look exactly as shown. They are small. The layouts are not appropriate to standard market for direct comparison to standard market apartments. They would generate less rent for the reasons stated. There's also a lot of mobility issues, obviously, in assisted living. So they accommodate that in their finishes of the bathroom, doorway openings, etc. So again, non-standard for the marketplace. As you can see on page number 12. So that's the property that we're looking at. The site is shown on page 13. If you look at the site there,
All right. We'll wait till our secretary comes back into view. All right, we'll call the hearing back to order. Mr. Smith, you were doing your final presentation here, so continue.
yes, thank you. Just getting back to cap rate. So I was discussing the C.B. Richard Ellis Seniors Housing and Healthcare Canadian Cap Rate Survey at the bottom of my page 19. And the question that was posed to the main investors in that marketplace: what would you pay for a Class A assisted living property in the main investment markets in Canada, Calgary, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, assuming it was a clean deal? This is historical information, so the cap rates aren't important, but you can see that they're paying significantly higher cap rates in my chart there versus what is paid for standard market apartments. So again, that's with regard to assisted living centers. Now, our task here today is to take out the business component, the operations essentially of the assisted living center, and look at the real estate. So that is our job. Our capitalization rate study remains the same on page 20. Again, we're looking at typically a range of 5 to 6% for the vast majority of transactions on the market. The lower end of that range representing premier properties, typically newer built properties with no opportunity to boost the revenue at the 5% range, up to 5.75, 6% for properties that are less optimal with different circumstances, lower level of finish, et cetera, et cetera. So That's the typical range. This is backed up by the main market brokerages as shown on my page 21 through 23. So let's step back a minute and look at what an investor would see if they were looking at a purchase of this property as a standard market apartment. So you have property that's built in stages over time. It's sprawling. It has units that are very small on the marketplace, so you generate less rent than is optimal. Certainly, in that regard, you have units that, all of the units that do not have kitchens. All they have generally is a microwave and either a fridge or a bar fridge. The layout of the units is conducive to seniors in terms of mobility issues. And you have a property that's operating as an assisted living center. So if you take that property versus a standard market apartment, you're going to pay you're going to assign a premium to the capitalization rate in order to acquire it. It's not a straight typical transaction. You have very significant issues in converting it to a standard market apartment. So you would be paying at the high end of the range in terms of capitalization rate. So all of that taken into account, we've assigned a cap rate of 6% at the upper end of the 5 to 6% range, as supported by our cap rate study as well as the market participants in our valuation. So page number 24 summarizes this valuation. For an agreement with the city's rental projection, we've added the parking revenue. We've assigned a 4% vacancy based on both market evidence as well as the vacancy for the subject property. And we've stabilized the expenses based on the actuals at $1,163,000 to get to our NOI. I will point out these are the actual expenses. So with appropriate adjustments, typically downwards. So if you were to buy this property, these are essentially what your typical operating expenses would be. Taking all of that into account, looking at the NOI, we've applied a cap rate of 6%, and this gives us our final market value of $19,186,000. Again, cities applied a cap rate of 4.95%, the very bottom end of the range. Essentially, we do not see that as appropriate for the subject property. Our addendum materials include the income and expense information as well as the commentary and evidence regarding the institutional taxable portion that the city has applied to the subject. And I am open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Valderrama, questions?
Yeah, I have no further or new questions. Mr. Chair, I just request that the other questions that I had when the previous properties be applied, Mr. Chair.
All right, I thank you. Ms. Rempel?
Yes, I'm just wondering whether the guest suite generates any income.
So it does, but it's exceptionally minimal. And I had that specific discussion because I knew this would come up. So I don't recall what they charge for it, but it's like $50 a night. And they get people in the neighborhood of a couple of nights a month. And it's typically, around Christmas time, Thanksgiving, birthdays, things of that nature that people come in and use it, right? But it's very, very lightly rented and they don't charge a lot for it.
I was also wondering which portion of the complex these pictures were taken in and when they were taken. Is it in the newer area, the older area?
It was actually throughout the property as far as where we took the photos. So there should be a mix of the older property components as well as the new. Now, if I look at, say, my page number 9, We would be in the newer portion of the property there, the 2018 section. As if you look out the window, you can see that Ness is on the north side. So that would be the newest component of the property. That particular unit, which I believe is 8 and 9. And I can't speak to each of the other ones, but I did go through each of the stages of the project and doing the inspection.
Thank you. And I'm looking at your aerial shot on page 13, and I'm assuming that the area we're talking about, that is the extra acreage or the area over 2 acres, is these 2 areas in the front of the building on the north side on Ness, and the ones on the south side on whatever that street is. Is that correct?
So
What are these areas used for? It looks like mostly parking.
So the front areas are used for parking, and the rear areas are essentially grassed or gardened, right? But more importantly, it's not a specific area; it's a proportion. So under the Elderly and Infirm Persons Housing Act, centers that are properties that have more than 2 acres, anything above 2 acres is given this institutional taxable category classification. So it's not a specific section, it's the amount of land. But again, when you look at the development of the property, they're using the whole thing, but more importantly, you can't treat one property under the same classification differently than you treat another property, as I've shown in my addenda and my page 25. So there should be no additional institutional taxable component based on inequity.
And where is the newest portion of the complex been built? Is it on the east side?
It is the easternmost component of it, yes. So if you look at my page 13, the site there, it would be the eastern building. So the right-hand side.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
I thank you. Mr. Marks, questions?
Yes, a couple. The area in behind the buildings there, is there green space for the residents back there?
There is, yes. So those 2, we'll call them squares, are grassed. I think they have a pagoda in one, and then they have some community garden area in a portion of the eastern one with, it looks like, some parking as well. Yeah, there was a parking spot there.
Back there?
That's right.
Okay, and the size of the unit, bachelor, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, square feet.
So I don't have the specific breakout, but in order to meet the Elderly and Infirm Persons Housing Act, they have to fall below a certain size, which is it's a very low bar or high bar, in that they have to be very small. All of their units fall under that guideline. So they're well under what a typical market apartment would be. And they make that distinction for the EIPH license so that they provide as many units as they can in order to meet the needs in the marketplace. They're very small. And I've been through, I forget how many I inspected, but quite a few.
No further questions.
I thank you. Just a couple questions, Mr. Smith. Is there a CMHC subsidy for this property?
There is no subsidy for this property, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm. But the previous one did.
The previous one did have one, yes. It was a co-op. This is assisted living, but there is no subsidy to this property.
And you don't have a presentation in regards to the excess acreage of 1.8? No?
I do actually have a presentation to it, and my presentation is that it shouldn't be there, not that it should have X value. If you look at the Assessment Act, etc., and City of Winnipeg's assessment department purpose, etc., equity is mentioned throughout each of those guidelines and documents, in that properties need to be equitably assessed on the marketplace. So what we're seeing, and it's not specific to my two examples here, but what we're seeing is that this particular guideline is not applied evenly across all properties. You have some that are given the additional institutional taxable component and others that are not, as shown on my page 25. So our contention is that the subject property is being treated inequitably compared to properties that are the same as it, and it should not be inequitably treated, and it should not have that component applied to it where it's not applied to others.
I thank you, Mr. Smith. Summation, either party?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Sorry, I'm fine. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Presentations and results very soon. Ryan, thank you very kindly. We have heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you both. Have a pleasant day.